Sometimes love arrives quietly when we least expect it. We think we know how the night will unfold, but fate often has its own plans. This is the story of how a simple sleepover at my best friend's house turned into a night that changed my heart forever. A night of hidden truths, unspoken feelings, and the courage to choose love, even when it feels complicated. The Friday evening air was thick with the hum of summer crickets. I slung my backpack over one shoulder and sent a quick text to my best friend Aaron, telling him I was on my way. His house had always been like a second home. We'd grown up side by side, playing sports, studying late, and sharing secrets that shaped us. Staying over at his place was nothing unusual, but that night, something unexpected waited for me inside. When I arrived, Aaron greeted me at the door with his usual energy. His sandy blonde hair was still messy from basketball practice, and his easy grin instantly put me at ease. "Finally," he teased, pulling me inside. "You're late. I thought we'd have time for a few games before dinner." I laughed, tossing my backpack onto the couch. "Blame traffic, not me." The house smelled of garlic bread and something sweet baking in the oven, the kind of cozy warmth I always loved about the Patel home. Aaron's parents were away for the weekend, so I thought it would just be the two of us. But I was wrong. As I set up the game console, a deeper voice cut through the air. "You're not taking over the living room already, are you?" I turned and froze. Standing in the doorway, arms crossed, was Ryan, Aaron's older brother. Ryan had always been different from Aaron. Where Aaron was lighthearted and playful, Ryan carried a quiet intensity. He was taller, with dark hair that curled slightly at the ends and sharp features that gave him a strong, magnetic presence. His eyes, a piercing shade of gray, seemed to look straight through you. "Relax, Ryan," Aaron groaned. "We're just playing for a while. Mom and Dad thought you'd be out tonight." Ryan smirked. "Plans changed." His gaze flicked toward me, lingering just long enough to stir something I didn't understand. My chest tightened. I quickly looked away, fumbling with the controller. I'd known Ryan for years, of course. He was Aaron's older brother, the one who always seemed distant, busy, caught up in his own world. He was polite, but never part of ours. Yet somehow, whenever he was around, the air felt heavier. Dinner was simple: pasta, garlic bread, easy laughter from Aaron. Ryan didn't say much, but when he did, his voice carried weight. Each time he asked me a question about school, basketball, even music, I felt my heartbeat quicken. I didn't know why. Later, Aaron and I headed upstairs. We played games, joked about teachers, and eventually, he dozed off mid-match, the controller slipping from his hand. I wasn't tired yet, so I went downstairs to get some water. The house was silent, shadows stretching across the walls. But when I entered the kitchen, Ryan was there, still awake. He sat at the counter, a book open in front of him, the warm glow of the lamp casting sharp lines across his face. "You're up late," he said, not looking up right away. I filled a glass of water and shrugged. "Couldn't sleep." Ryan finally raised his eyes, meeting mine with a steady gaze. "Aaron always crashes early. You've always been the restless one." I chuckled softly. "Guess so." He closed the book, leaning back in his chair, and in that quiet moment, I realized this night was far from ordinary. Something was shifting, something I couldn't ignore. The way Ryan studied me made my skin prickle. "You've grown up," he said. The words were simple, but the weight behind them sent my pulse racing. Thanks," I managed, unsure how else to respond. His smirk softened into something quieter, more serious. "I didn't mean it like that. I just noticed things. You're not the kid who used to trail after Aaron anymore." His tone was calm, but beneath it was something else, something that felt almost like an invitation, one I wasn't ready to accept. Before I could reply, a thunderclap shook the windows. Rain poured hard against the glass as a summer storm rolled in. Ryan glanced toward the window, then back at me. "Storms don't bother you, do they?" "Not really," I said. He nodded slowly, like he was tucking that answer away. "Good. They always seem to shake Aaron up. He'll probably want you close tonight." I swallowed, feeling the intensity of his gaze. "I'll look out for him." Something flickered in his eyes then. Vulnerability, brief but real. But just as quickly it was gone. He closed his book, pushed it aside, and stood. "Good night," he said, his voice low. I watched him walk away, his presence lingering long after he disappeared down the hall. My chest tightened. My thoughts tangled. Why was I suddenly so aware of him? Why did his words carry more weight than they should? Back in Aaron's room, the storm was raging. Lightning painted the walls white, followed by thunder that shook the floor. Aaron stirred in his sleep, but didn't wake. I lay on the floor, staring at the ceiling, unable to shake the image of Ryan's eyes. That night, as the storm howled, something inside me shifted. And it all began with the way Ryan looked at me, like he saw a truth I hadn't yet admitted to myself. The storm outside didn't let up. Rain hammered the roof. Each flash of lightning cast Aaron's room in silver light. He slept peacefully, wrapped in his blanket, while I lay restless. My thoughts tumbled, circling back to Ryan. His steady gaze earlier had unsettled me, like he was daring me to meet him halfway. Then, footsteps creaked in the hallway. Slow, deliberate. A soft knock at the door followed. "Aaron," I whispered. But he didn't stir. The knock came again, firmer this time. Carefully, I rose and cracked the door open. Ryan stood there, shadows falling across his face. His hair was tousled, his t-shirt clinging faintly as though he, too, had been restless. "Couldn't sleep," I whispered. He shook his head. "Mind stepping out for a minute?" My stomach tightened, but I nodded. Closing the door behind me, I followed him into the dark hallway. A faint glow from a lamp downstairs guided us to the living room, where the storm raged through the wide windows. Ryan leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "You're not scared of storms, right?" I shook my head, though my pulse was racing for an entirely different reason. "No, why?" "Good," he said quietly. "Because storms have a way of forcing people to be honest. And I wanted to talk." His words unsettled me, but in the best possible way. "Talk about what?" Ryan's eyes lingered on mine. He let out a breath. "You've been coming here for years. Always with Aaron. But I've noticed how you've changed. Not just how you look, but how you carry yourself. You're different." Heat rose in my chest. "Is that a compliment?" He smirked faintly. "An observation, but yes. A compliment, too." Silence stretched between us, broken only by the thunder. I felt like I was standing at the edge of something, unsure if I should step forward or turn back. Ryan tilted his head slightly. "Do you know why I don't usually hang around when you're here?" I shook my head. "Because it's easier to keep my distance than admit I notice you more than I should." The words hit me like a shock. My breath caught. "You what?" His gaze didn't waver. "You heard me." My chest tightened, my thoughts colliding. This was Ryan, Aaron's older brother. The one who always seemed untouchable, unreachable. And now he was standing here, admitting something I wasn't ready to hear. "I don't understand," I whispered. He stepped closer, lightning flashing behind him, his gray eyes glowing almost silver. "You don't have to. Just know I see you differently than Aaron does. I notice the side of you he never sees. Maybe I shouldn't, but I can't help it." His honesty left me breathless. I wanted to ask more, but the words tangled on my tongue. Before I could speak, thunder cracked so loud it rattled the walls. I flinched. Ryan's hand brushed against mine. a touch so brief yet electric, sending a current through me I couldn't ignore. His hand lingered, just long enough to blur the line between accident and choice. "You should get some rest," he murmured, voice rough. "If Aaron finds out we had this conversation, we'll both regret it." But I didn't move. My skin still burned where his hand had been. "Ryan," I whispered, not even sure what I wanted to say. He stepped back, creating space. "Good night," he said softly, though his eyes told a different story. And then he was gone, leaving me alone with the storm outside and inside me. When I returned to Aaron's room, he was still asleep, untouched by it all. I lay down again, staring into the dark, Ryan's words echoing in my head. "I notice you more than I should." That night I didn't sleep. By morning the storm had passed. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, painting the room in gold. Aaron stretched and yawned, unaware of the restless night I'd spent. "Man, I slept like a rock," he said. "What about you?" I forced a casual smile. "Yeah, same, but it wasn't true." My mind was still caught in Ryan's words. His touch, his eyes that seemed to see right into the truth I wasn't ready to face. Aaron, of course, was already moving on, chattering about breakfast. The park, maybe basketball if the court wasn't too wet. I nodded along to Aaron's chatter, but my mind was elsewhere. When we went downstairs, the kitchen was already filled with the smell of coffee. Ryan stood at the counter, mug in hand. His hair was slightly messy, his t-shirt soft and worn, and a faint shadow of stubble lined his jaw. He looked older somehow, like someone carrying more than he ever said out loud. "Morning," Ryan said, calm and casual, though his eyes flicked to mine for just a second. That glance carried the memory of last night, even if Aaron didn't notice. "Morning," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. Aaron clapped Ryan's shoulder. "You're up early for once. Didn't think you even knew what mornings looked like." Ryan smirked, sipping his coffee. "Storm kept me up." Our eyes met again, and I knew he wasn't just talking about the weather. Breakfast blurred past in Aaron's chatter and Ryan's quiet presence. Later, Aaron dragged me to the park. The humid air clung to us as we shot baskets on the damp court. But my focus wasn't there. I kept replaying Ryan's words in my head like a song I couldn't turn off. When we came back, sweaty and laughing, Ryan was in the backyard fixing the old wooden fence. The afternoon sun lit him up, sweat glistening on his skin. He looked up as we passed, his gaze lingering on me for a heartbeat too long. My chest tightened. I looked away before Aaron could notice. Later, when Aaron hopped in the shower, I headed downstairs for water. Ryan was in the living room, leaning over a notebook spread across the coffee table. His expression was focused, lips pressed tight as he scribbled something down. "What's that?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He looked up, surprise flashing in his eyes. "Just some sketches. Nothing important." "Sketches?" I stepped closer before I could stop myself. On the page were intricate, detailed drawings of landscapes and figures. He was good, really good. "You did these?" I asked, impressed. "Yeah," he said softly, almost shy. "Not many people know. I usually keep it to myself." I studied the page, then him. "They're incredible." "Why would you hide this?" Ryan shrugged, leaning back. "Because people expect me to be someone else. Strong, serious, always in control. Drawing feels vulnerable, like showing too much." Something in his words hit me deep. "I don't think it's too much. I think it's the real you." Silence stretched, heavy and charged. His eyes softened, the guarded edges fading. "You're not supposed to get me this easily," he murmured. My breath caught. Maybe I'm not supposed to, but I do. The air between us crackled, thick with unspoken pull. His hand twitched as if he wanted to reach for me, but stopped. Footsteps upstairs broke the moment, Aaron calling my name. I stepped back quickly, heart racing. Ryan's jaw tightened as he closed the notebook. "You should go," he said quietly, though his eyes lingered. I nodded and forced myself toward the stairs. But I knew something had shifted. It wasn't just tension anymore. It was connection. That night, after Aaron and I watched movies until he fell asleep, I lay awake again. The house was quiet, the storm long gone. But inside me, the storm hadn't passed. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ryan. His sketches, his words, the way his eyes softened when I told him I understood. I couldn't deny it anymore. I wasn't just drawn to him for how he looked. I was drawn to the parts of himself he tried so hard to hide. The next day stretched on with an uneasy rhythm. Aaron kept me busy. Video games, bike rides, another round of basketball. On the surface, it was a normal weekend. But beneath it all, I couldn't shake the awareness of Ryan. Every glance, every moment in the same room carried weight. It was like we were circling each other in silence, waiting for something neither of us dared to name. By evening, Aaron was sprawled on the couch, half asleep with a controller slipping from his hand. He could fall asleep anywhere, anytime. I set my controller down quietly and stretched. "I'm grabbing some water," I whispered. He mumbled something and turned over, already gone. The kitchen was dim, lit only by the glow of the street lamp outside. I filled a glass, enjoying the coolness against the heavy summer air. Then I heard movement. Ryan stepped into the doorway. His hair was tousled, a black t-shirt clinging to him. His presence filled the space without effort. "You and Aaron play games until you drop," he said. Amused. "It's tradition," I said, trying to sound casual, though my pulse quickened. He stepped closer, gaze steady. "Tradition's fine. But some things are better when you break them." I froze. "What do you mean?" Ryan leaned against the counter opposite me, arms folded. "You know exactly what I mean." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was charged. The storm from 2 nights ago might have passed, but the one between us hadn't. "You said last night you noticed me more than you should," I whispered. Testing the words, Ryan's jaw tightened, but he didn't look away. "I meant it." My chest tightened. "And what if I notice you too?" His eyes flickered. Surprise, hunger, restraint all at once. He pushed off the counter and closed the space between us, slow and deliberate, giving me time to step back if I wanted to. But I didn't move. "You shouldn't," he said softly, his voice low. "Aaron trusts us both. It's complicated." "Maybe," I whispered. "But that doesn't make it less real." The air buzzed between us, thick with tension. His hand brushed mine on the counter, the touch sending sparks I couldn't ignore. Fire raced up my arm. He didn't pull away this time. Our eyes locked, and I could see the battle inside him, wanting me, resisting me, knowing we were standing on dangerous ground. "I don't want to hurt him," Ryan murmured, his voice trembling with honesty. "You won't?" I whispered, though a part of me wasn't sure that was true. For a moment, neither of us moved. The only sound was the hum of the refrigerator and the pounding of my heartbeat. Then slowly, Ryan reached up, his fingers brushing against my face. The gentleness of his touch nearly undid me. "I've been trying not to feel this," he admitted, his thumb grazing my cheek. "But you make it impossible." My breath caught. Before I could stop myself, I whispered, "Then don't stop." The space between us disappeared. His forehead rested against mine, his breath warm, his closeness overwhelming. He didn't kiss me, not yet. But the promise was there, alive in every heartbeat we shared in that tiny sliver of distance. The sound of footsteps above us shattered the moment. Aaron's voice carried faintly from the stairs. Ryan pulled back quickly, his hand dropping to his side, his chest rising and falling, his jaw tense, his eyes conflicted. "You should go," he said again, voice rough. But this time I didn't just walk away. I paused in the doorway, looking back at him. "We can't keep pretending nothing's happening," I whispered. His eyes locked on mine, dark with desire and fear. "I know." I left before Aaron could see me, my heart racing, my hands shaking. That night, lying awake on the floor of Aaron's room, I knew things had changed forever. We had crossed a line, and whether we admitted it or not, there was no going back. The morning felt heavier than it should have. Sunlight poured through Aaron's curtains, bright and cheerful, but it clashed with the storm inside me. I had barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt Ryan's hand on my cheek, heard his voice admitting what he'd been trying so hard to hide. Breakfast was awkward. Aaron was cheerful as always, stuffing toast in his mouth and rattling off plans for the day. Ryan sat across from me, quiet, his eyes rarely meeting mine. But when they did, the weight of last night hung between us like a secret we couldn't outrun. After breakfast, Aaron announced he was meeting a friend for an hour. "You'll be fine here, right?" he asked, grabbing his keys. "Yeah," I said quickly. "Cool, don't break anything," he joked, and then he was gone. The moment the door clicked shut, silence swallowed the house. My chest tightened. I could feel Ryan's presence in the next room, heavy, impossible to ignore. I found him in the living room, staring out the window as if the quiet street outside could answer the questions burning between us. "Ryan," I said softly. He turned, his eyes stormy. "This isn't fair to Aaron." "I know," I admitted. My voice shook, but I didn't back down. "But it's not fair to us either, pretending this doesn't exist, lying to ourselves." "That's not fair either." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration written across his face. "You don't understand." I've spent years trying to be the brother Aaron can rely on, the one who never lets him down. If he knew I felt this way about you. I stepped closer, my heart pounding. "He doesn't have to know everything right now. But you can't keep carrying this alone." "I feel it too, Ryan. I'm not imagining it." His jaw tightened. "You're not imagining it." Those words opened a floodgate. The space between us vanished. His hands found my face again, more desperate this time, and before I could think, his lips brushed mine, soft at first, hesitant, as if he was testing the weight of this moment. The kiss deepened, slow but undeniable, every second charged with everything we'd been holding back. It wasn't just attraction. It was release, connection, the truth finally breaking free. When we pulled back, both breathless, his forehead rested against mine. "I shouldn't have done that," he whispered, but his voice betrayed him. "You wanted to," I said, my own voice trembling. His eyes closed, a half smile tugging at his lips. "Yeah, I wanted to." The sound of Aaron's car pulling into the driveway snapped us back to reality. We broke apart quickly, hearts racing, guilt and longing tangled together. Aaron bounded into the house, tossing his keys on the counter. "Miss me?" he joked. Ryan and I exchanged a glance. Silent understanding passed between us. Nothing had to be said in that moment. We both knew what we shared was fragile, private, something we needed to handle carefully. The rest of the day passed with forced normalcy, laughter masking the undercurrent of tension. But when night fell and Aaron finally went to bed, Ryan caught me in the hallway. "I don't know what this means yet," he admitted, his eyes soft but serious. "But I know I can't go back to pretending." "Not after this." I nodded, my chest swelling with something that felt like hope. "Neither can I." His hand brushed mine, not by accident this time, but as a choice. Promise." And though the road ahead was uncertain, I knew one thing for sure. Staying over at Aaron's house had changed everything. What began as a simple sleepover with my best friend had become the start of something I never expected, but couldn't ignore. Something real, something worth the risk. It wasn't just his brother's house anymore. It was where I found a piece of myself I didn't know was missing. And as I lay awake that night, listening to the quiet hum of the house, I wasn't afraid of what came next. For the first time in a long time, I was ready to see where love could take me. Sometimes, the people we're meant to find come into our lives in the most unexpected ways. Love doesn't always follow the rules, and it doesn't always make sense. But when it's real, it's worth the risk. This was the beginning of my story with Ryan. And though it started with secrecy and hesitation, it grew into something that changed us both. In the end, what mattered wasn't where it began, but that we were brave enough to choose it.